have on our team, and I just rely on Nick and his staff and trust the work that they put in, right, to see if there's anybody else that they feel that's worthy of, upgrading our roster. So I rely heavily on them when it comes to those decisions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jonathan?
Hey, DeMeco. Hope you're doing well. How difficult did you feel like it was this year to judge your wide receiver room? It seemed like a lot of them were really kind of close together as far as how they produce. So how difficult was it this year?
Yeah, we have a really tight wide receiver room, right? It's a lot of good players in that room. A lot of guys made a lot of plays throughout the training camp practices, and also some guys showed up in the games as well. Feel really good about the room that we have. You have of course, the top three guys that we have are all big-time playmakers, but all the other guys have stepped up and made plays at some point, right? And that's a good problem to have, Jonathan. When you have as many guys as we have, it's a really good problem, and I'm definitely excited about the group. I think Coach McDaniel's done a great job of working with that group and getting those guys better, right? Talk about guys like Xavier Hutchinson, just seeing the progress he's made from year one to year two. It's been pretty cool, right, to see his growth, see his development.
Landry?
Morning, Coach.
Morning.
Obviously, y'all haven't had Beck for a large portion of camp. How important is a fullback in this offense? And do you guys feel like in certain situations you might be able to function as an offense without one by using tight ends and other guys in the backfield?
Oh, great question, Landry. I think with that position, right, called the fullback, tight end position, right, I think it's very, very flexible, right, and it's dependent upon, right, who you're facing, right, and the defensive structures that you're facing that particular week, and how do we gain an advantage by utilizing that position, right, to whether it's to create angles in the running game or to create a mismatch in the passing game as well. So it's all predicated on who you're playing that particular week, and does that position provide an advantage for you. So I think there are times, and there are games certainly when you can utilize that position to your advantage.
Cole?
Morning, Coach.
Good morning, Cole.
Just want to get your thoughts on when going into the last stages of roster cuts, do you take into consideration the value of special teams to where maybe somebody can get on the field immediately rather than stow them in the back where they're a depth piece when it comes to those few final decisions of players that you want to keep around for the long term versus players that maybe could find value elsewhere? Yeah,
great question, Cole. That is a huge part in determining, right, guys who make our roster, and that's really that's one of the main determining factors. Like, what's the value of that player on game day, and will that player be up on game day, and what's their special teams role, right? So that's where a lot of players, your backups, right, that's where they fill those roles, and they play a significant amount of time on our special teams. They contribute a lot. Special teams is very important when you talk about the field position battle and winning that battle. Sometimes that's the huge determinant in winning and losing games is that field position battle. So you need guys who can really step up on special teams and not just be, a placeholder as an emergency guy or a depth filler. Like, that guy has to add value on our special teams, and our special teams they did a great job last year in all phases of the game. They did a great job, and for us to be a good team, we have to be a good special teams. Or we have to play good special teams for us to win games, and so it's a very important piece to who we keep on the roster and who we do not.
Tim?
Hey, good morning, DeMeco. Question for you. When you start looking at the number of players at each position, do you also take into account like who you might be able to get on a practice squad and all of those things when you make those decisions?
Yeah, thanks, Cam. It's we think about the practice squad for sure, with a lot of young guys, and also with the practice squad being opened up to the 6 veterans who were able to get on the practice squad as well. So that's always in consideration of guys, and we always want to leave the door open to guys who could potentially, help us on the practice squad, because, practice squad, I look at it's a very valuable, it's a valuable 16 guys, and those guys aren't just seen as practice players only, my message has always been that our practice squad guys is, you don't know, like you can be up. Like week 2, week 1, you can be up. So you have to get yourself in position and ready to be available to play in a game. You're not just a practice player only, but you're the next man up, and you never know when you're needed. So you have to stay ready.
John,
DeMeco, the new quarterback rule for game days as it compares to the practice squad seems to be designed to help a low draft choice or free agent that don't make much money. And you got Case making several million. How do you plan to handle that? Will he be part of the 53, or could you convince him to do the practice squad routine?
Yeah, John, we're still working through that. When it comes to the third quarterback situation, still working through that, and we'll figure that out, tomorrow afternoon.
we have time for a couple more. Go ahead, Sarge.
Coach, how much input do players have in some of the decisions you all make in the roster cuts?
Yeah, the players' input is what they've done over the past couple months, right? The players' input is their play on the field, like how they've been, in the classroom, like how have they shown the growth, shown that development, like how those guys have grown. Like that's their input. Their film speaks louder than anything they could say. And also just their actions daily and how they show up and prepare for practice, right? How they show up available, right? How they take care of their bodies. So players' input is shown by their actions and what they've done over the past couple months.
And I if you don't mind me asking just a little bit more, I meant like how much would, let's just say, C.J. Stroud have in saying, hey, look, I have a really good connection with this wide receiver and that wide receiver. When you and Nick go to make those decisions on whether or not to keep him, does C.J.'s input, is it valued in that?
Oh, yeah, Sarge, I respect the players' input, but, solely at the end of the day, it's myself and Nick. It's our job to create the best roster for the Houston Texans. So, that's why we're here to make those decisions, and me and Nick will work through all of those.
Thank you.
Jonathan,
DeMeco, I was wondering if you had an update on how Will Anderson was coming along and whether you expected him to be ready anytime soon.
Yeah, we'll see where Will is over the next couple of days. Will has been doing really good.
Landry,
You said early in the preseason that you wanted to see Mechie produce in a game, and he obviously answered the call. Does the fact that Dameon Pierce wasn't out there this weekend, does that mean that y'all have seen enough to make whatever decision y'all need to make in the next day or so?
Yeah, our decisions will be made on the roster, guys, over the next couple of days, and you guys will know we still have a lot of things to work through when it comes to the roster. When you talk about those guys specifically, Mechie and Dameon, I think both guys they've done really well in practice settings and also in the game. So both guys I've seen, I know what those guys are about. I know who they are as people, and so but we'll see you guys will see those decisions here over the next couple of days.
we'll close with Aaron and Kim.
Hey, DeMeco, when you look at the defensive backfield, when you talk about wide receiver, how tough are some of those decisions with some guys that have played for you and played well, and then you have a lot of newcomers and some have not been able to practice as much or play as much in the preseason as probably originally planned? Just your thoughts on kind of where the defensive backfield is. Obviously, you have some really good starters. Thank you.
And when you speak to the defensive back room, it's kind of similar to that wide receiver position. A lot of guys play really well, throughout camp. And as you guys know, we spend a lot of time, with these guys, and we see them practice on a day-to-day basis. So you see who guys are, right? We have a lot of guys who's showing up, a lot of guys competing, right, at the catch point, making plays, showing up on a consistent basis, adding value to our team by showing up on special teams as well. So that's another tight room to crack, that DB room, also the receiver room. But, it's not easy decisions to make, but it's something we have to, me and Nick, we'll get together and make these decisions over the next couple of days.
Kim,
DeMeco, can you just speak to over the last couple of years when they changed the process to where all the cuts are made on one day, what that process is like with you and Nick? 'Cause I know you're also focused on your team throughout camp, but that evaluation process to be ready to see who's out there and available while you're getting your own team together, what that process is like for you guys?
Yeah, great question. I think the process is, first off, it provides guys now, having this one final cut. I think it provides a lot of the young guys, first off, that opportunity to participate in that last preseason game and get more film out there where they wouldn't have had that opportunity based on the previous year's rule. So I like that part of it, where those guys can get more tape and get evaluated by the entire league, right? And then when it comes down to it, right, you will have, over 1,000 players hitting the waiver wire. So it is difficult to try to comb through that. So our scouting staff, those people in those positions, they have to be ready. They have to be ahead of things, kind of thinking ahead on, who can help us, right? And it's a difficult time to really try to add someone else to your roster from another team.
Do you ever, and one final thing, along the way, do you ever hear from them, or they say, hey, coach, we've seen such and such, you're busy, but we're keeping an eye on? I mean, do you have conversations about that as well while you're getting your team ready for preseason?
Yeah. Oh, through those conversations, that's Nick, and Nick is doing having most of those conversations. And it goes back to, right, how does the organization work well? And it's with myself being a head coach and Nick as a GM being tied together and in constant communication and always working together on everything that we do. So it has to be, there's a trust factor there. And I trust what Nick does, and he knows the type of players that we're looking for and the type of players that we're about. So it makes the transition for me, it makes all of the transactions very seamless because of the trust that we have in one another.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.